Disclaimer. Please check your playback settings. Ensure you are listening to this podcast at normal speed. Unless you want us to sound drunk. Then play at half speed. Thank you.
Stupid radio, I don't understand why it's
Try
not...
to the left.
You see me turning the dial, it's just like it's not...
Dan, could you just not mess with the radio right now? I'm trying to find our turn. Damn it, we were supposed to be at the meeting a half hour ago.
If Josh
Here it comes.
hadn't spent so damn
Here
long
goes,
haggling with the car rental guy,
Yep.
then maybe we'd have a car with a working radio and be at the studio by now.
You know what? Fuck you. It's not my fault. The guy was very charming.
The mystical bond between man and machine.
Exactly.
That wasn't me. Did the radio just do...
Not now, Dan. Josh, what's our turn?
Okay, it says take a left turn at Albuquerque, the city, I guess. And then a hop, skip, and a jump to Crocodile's Creek, maybe?
Are you using maps again?
Albuquerque? I thought this was Mission City. Josh, can you just come up to the front seat and give directions instead of this back?
No. We talked about this at the rental car place. I get the front seat, Josh gets the back.
Fine, then Josh, you can give Dan the GPS so he can navigate from the front seat. That way
shut
you
that
can...
hole in your face. I get to navigate. It's my turn.
Yeah, okay,
Dan
but
wants
you
to
can't
sit in the front
navigate
seat.
from the back
No,
seat
you're
because
in the
you're
front
literally
seat.
in the
I
back
get to
seat.
navigate.
My
Your
God,
phone
why
is-
is this always a thing with you two? And Dan, seriously, stop it with the radio!
Shoot him. Everything I do is for Krypton.
Dan!
That wasn't me. That was the radio.
Oh, yeah, good job, Dan. Now you're getting us pulled over.
Tom's the one that's driving.
I was not aware of this.
Yeah, you tell them. Me?
Tom, I think the cop behind us wants you to pull over.
I'm trying, but the car, it's...
Whoa, Tom, this is not pulling over. This is speeding up.
You see my hands? I'm trying to turn us, but the damn thing won't do as it's told.
You do not work with me. You work for me. Oh my God!
Guys, the police car behind us just turned into a giant robot and is shooting lasers at us!
Police have those things now? How can they even afford that?
Well, have you seen the roads in the city so far?
Good point, Josh. Government spending can usually be
Tom, what are you doing to this car?
Me? It's not me. Oh my God, we're in a transformer.
Why am I in the armpit?
No, this is a rental. Stop it.
I told you I should have picked the car.
It's my turn to pick the car.
No,
you got
that
to
was
pick
the
it
hot
last
air
time.
balloon.
This was Tom's
You know
turn.
it.
I get to
It
pick
was the hot air
car.
balloon
That
and the
was
Tom's
40
before.
episodes ago. Doesn't count.
Yeah, let's watch a movie, guys.
It's the Masters of the Universe Super Saturday Super Power Hour.
Tune into the Firepit podcast on the last Saturday of the month.
And join Dan,
Tom,
And Josh.
as they watch movies based on some of the greatest 80s Saturday morning cartoons ever.
Yo Joe with G.I. Joe Retaliation.
Transform and roll out with the Transformers.
Transform and roll out.
Jam out with Jam and the Holograms.
Then take on Skeletor with Masters of the Universe.
It's marshmallow cereal and all your childhood memories, and it's only at the Fire Pit.
Who needs school?
When weekends rule.
Good morning, bots and listeners. Welcome back, and I do mean welcome back to the Fire Pit. I am Dan, robot named Nigeltron, and we are excited to have you all here with us on the second leg of our brand new journey.
Since we're robots in disguise, shouldn't it be the latest wheel in our journey?
Stop.
Vito. Our hiatus is over. Tom and Josh have learned their lessons and have properly recognized me as the new leader.
Stop.
Not the leader. Not the leader.
Moving on.
Fine. Still, we're very excited to have you joining us here on the Fire Pit Podcast Super Saturday Super Power Hour. And without further ado, to let us know what we're watching and why we're watching it, I'll roll out some Energon to Tom.
Thank you, Dan. Tom here. Robot name Thompson Mus. And tonight we're watching our second toy commercial. Movie based on IPs that were toy commercials. 2007's Transformers, the first of the Bayformer movies that are actually still going on today, and for some reason still making buckets of money. America, why not? Our second movie on our Firepit Super Saturday Superpower Hour, the theme is Saturday morning cartoons, working our way to Masters of the Universe. But first we need to get through tonight's film. So give us a rundown, and let me start that whole thing over
I thought
again.
you were made of sterner stuff.
One shall stand, and Tom shall fall.
Yes. Come on, Tom, light our darkest hour.
Open, damn you!
Our second movie in our Firepit Super Saturday Superpower Hour, the theme being Saturday morning cartoons, working our way to Masters of the Universe. But to get to Castle Grayskull, we first need to get through tonight's film. So to give us a rundown and open the discussion, I summon Josh here for a purpose.
Thank you, Tom. Josh here. Robot name Reginus Prime. Haha, I'm the Prime. And
Stick
yes,
to the script.
but I want to be a Prime.
Stick to the script.
You didn't have Prime in your name. I'm taking it. And yes, tonight we are watching 2007 Transformers, or Bayformers as sometimes it's been called. You know, obviously referring to the film's director and now franchise executive producer, one Mr. Michael Bay. Steven Spielberg was the executive producer for this film and still has some input on the franchise, but it stars Shia LaBeouf, Josh Duhamel, Megan Fox, John Turturro, and features Peter Cullen as the voice of Optimus Prime and Hugo Weaving as the voice of Megatron. Currently, it has a 57% on Rotten Tomatoes and an 85% audience score with a 7 out of 10 on IMDb. It was the first in what was now a 16-year-old franchise that has now grossed billions in the box office. Seriously, these films have made money despite being critically hated. Literally all of them. Like, there was no fresh one until, what was it, Bumblebee, right?
Bumblebee was the first.
That was released in 2019. This film was released on July 3rd, 2007, with a budget of $150 to $200 million and a box office run of $709 million. So yeah, it made some money.
And in 2000's money, too. Has it almost been 20 years since that movie came out? Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
2007, yep. So rolling on right into the box office numbers, the film had a domestic opening of $70 million, a total domestic gross of $319 million, and a worldwide gross of $709 million, which for, as we said, July 2007, that was a good chunk of change.
Yeah, it was. Jesus.
To put that into perspective, do you guys care to take a whack at what the number one grossing film of 2007 was?
Number one grossing film of 2007?
2007.
Trying to think of what came out in 2007.
Was that the same year that, like, Expendables and Scott Pilgrim came out? Or was that the year after?
I think that was 2008.
Okay. I'm trying to...
I'll give you a hint. The number 2 Transformers was the number 3 highest grossing film of that year. Number 2 was Shrek the Third.
Oh, if it's 2007, is it Spider-Man 3?
Tom, do you have a guess?
2007, I'm going off my dome and saying it's got to be a Pirates film. So I'm thinking Pirates 3.
Ooh, Tom, you are so close. Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End was the number 4 highest grossing film of that year. Nigel, number 1 was Spider-Man 3, pulling in 336 million.
And I only guessed that because I was talking to a coworker about the new PlayStation Spider-Man game, and it's got the black suit in it. I looked up Spider-Man movies on my computer at work, and I saw that 2007 was the release date for Spider-Man 3. So yeah, that's why I was thinking. I was like, Spider-Man 3, I think was the top grossing film of 2007.
Yep. But yeah, so the top 5 in 2007. Number 1 was Spider-Man 3 at 336 million.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 was Shrek the Third at 322 million. Number 3 was Transformers at 319 million. And number 4 was Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End at 309 million. And 5 was Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix at 392 million.
Damn.
Yeah, it was a year. Other notables in the box office was at number 7 was 300.
Mm-hmm.
Number 10 was the Simpsons movie.
Wow.
Number 16 was Live Free or Die Hard. Oh, and number 18 was the Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer.
Movies are weird to me sometimes. Like, I don't always associate them with the same year, even though they came out in the same year. Like, I don't know, like if I hadn't looked it up last week or something, I probably never would have guessed Spider-Man 3 came out the same year as Transformers.
Yeah, I know. Some of those films I completely forgot about entirely. I thought they happened sooner, like Shrek the Third. I thought that was like a 2005 film.
Yeah, same here.
Dude, the early 2000s are turning into like the 60s and 70s for me. You know, remember I made the joke a while back where it was just like movies that came out in the 70s that aren't Star Wars, they just came out in the 70s. You group movies up by decade.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's happening with the early double O's from 2000 to 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing because I'm like, when Tom guessed Pirates of the Caribbean, I'm thinking, like, no, I think the Pirates movies, their run was done after 2005. I don't think, I'm like, no, they weren't, Dan. They still were coming out in 2007.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And weirdly enough for me, like early 2000s, right around like the 9/11 time frame, in my head, I think of those as 90s films. Like Lord of the Rings, they came out post 9/11, but for my head, it's like, oh, those were 99, early 2000, weren't they?
Yeah, the first one came out in, was it 03?
Yeah.
Really?
03, 04, yeah. Because, that's right, because I couldn't watch Return of the King because I was at basic training when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting old, gentlemen.
We are.
We are men in our 40s recording a podcast about movies that are almost 20 years old, but we're still released in the 21st century.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting old.
Any other box office numbers, Josh?
I honestly, I don't want to extend this too much, but I do think that it's interesting that in 07, how close the top 3 movies were in terms of their total domestic gross. Transformers was third at 319. Spider-Man 3 was at 336.
If you look at the box office of the movies that were coming out, yeah, they made millions, but honestly, they kind of all sucked.
Yeah.
It's I think that would explain why they're all so close in box office. It wasn't a lot of,
like I said, it'd be fun to compare different years. Like 2008 was a big year. Yeah.
And what's the difference between the movies in 2007? The box office.
The top 3 were within 17 million of each other.
Wow.
The top 3 here are within almost 220 million of each other.
Damn.
Like 1 to 3 was about 220-ish million.
So yeah. I think that audiences were a little more excited about certain films in 2008 than they were in 2007. If I'm going to interpret those numbers.
Oh, and here's a fun one too. 2009, the top grossing film was Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen at 402 million.
That one was 400 million. Jesus God.
That was the highest grossing film of 09.
Yeah, they all make money. They
do. They make,
whether they're good or not, they make money.
What is wrong with people? Why do you keep paying for this stuff?
It's called kids love them. That's what it basically boils down to.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, this movie did make money, and it was financially successful. It was so successful that it did spawn a franchise. So, Josh, I take it you're done with the box office stuff?
Yeah.
Well, Tom, you got maybe a reason why this movie? Like, did the Avengers assemble in such a way to make this movie a success?
No.
No, okay.
All right, Dan,
Moving on to the trivia then.
But really, it comes down to like the people who know how to make a movie for your lowest common denominator people. Well, that's a little disingenuous, but they know what the people want. And what the people want are pew-pew laser explosion, giant robot punching stuff. I mean, that's what the Transformers were. For the benefit of our younger listeners, or anyone who hasn't watched any of the 15 remakes, reimaginings, reinterpretations of the original series. Honestly, Nigel, you have younger kids. How many new Transformer cartoons have there been so far?
Oh, I don't know, probably about. I can just think of 5 or 6 off the top of my head.
They had like 3 through the 90s. The freaking Beast Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Then they had the one where it was basically Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, but like just from the early 2000s, they had like Armada, Energon, Robots in Disguise, the Transformers Prime. I think there was one called Transformers Prime. There's just been a bunch of them.
Yeah. And they've all been pretty much the same premise. What do you think is the premise of the Transformers cartoon series? If sum it up for those out there who have never even heard of the Transformers before.
Autobots are losing the war for Cybertron, and they escape to Earth, where the war continues.
Pretty much.
Oh, I was okay. That's pretty good. Not
Yeah, that's the crux of most Transformers show, is that the War of Cybertron spills onto Earth for whatever reason, whether it's prehistoric past or modern day, and it just continues on Earth. And then humans get involved in some way.
But they're completely replaceable in every movie.
Yes.
So for those listeners, that's basically what Transformers were. It was a half-hour toy commercial. Good forces of the Autobots fighting the evil forces of the Decepticons. But rather than just be giant robots punching, they transformed into other things. And you want to buy these other things. Look at this guy. He can turn into a space shuttle with its own fucking launch pad. Buy one today! And yeah, the people who made this movie, they knew what they were making. I mean, the same people that made the G.I. Joe movie produced this film. And of course, who do you want as a director for a pew-pew laser explosion-y, fast car chasing, fast dog fighting film, but arguably one of the worst good directors of the modern era, Michael Bay? Off the top of your heads, guys, what are some of the movies Michael Bay has made that people actually think are good films?
Armageddon. I don't know if people think that's a good movie or not, but it's a popular film.
We watched it on the podcast.
We have watched it on the podcast. He did
The Rock.
The Rock. I would say The Rock's probably his best.
I mean, he's done the Bad Boys films.
Yeah, he did do the Bad Boys films, and I do really enjoy the first one. So to answer Tom's question, I think out of all the movies he's done, the only ones that I think people would generally agree are good films are The Rock and Pain and Gain.
But you wouldn't call any of these films deep films.
Oh, no. Shallow.
No.
What would summarize them as just fast cars, fast women, explosions.
He's made better Miami Vice movies than the actual Miami Vice movie.
Hell, he's made better G.I. Joe films than the G.I. Joe film. Let's be honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
But you would say they chose the right director for a Transformers film, just based on
Yeah,
that
love him
resume.
or hate him, that's probably who I would have picked too.
Yeah, a lot of his films, like he did Pearl Harbor, he did Bad Boys 2, The Island. Everybody remembers that film, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he must have had some fondness for that film because two of the writers of this film worked on The Island. You may know one or two of them. Alex Kurtzman and Roberto Orci.
Oh, those guys' names sound familiar and not very well enjoyed.
They're the current writers and kind of showrunners for most of the new Star Trek shows.
Yeah, well, they got their big Star Trek break in Star Trek 09, just 2 years after this one.
That's right. Yeah, they did.
Yep. And before that, Xena Warrior Princess and the Legend of Zorro. Yeah, they're also fun explosion schlock kind of guys.
Yeah.
For better or worse, because I looked at their resumes and I think only two of their films broke out of the 6-star rating category. These are solid 6-star level writers here.
Basically, people who know and can exploit the formula.
Exactly. Josh has been reading the prompt. Yes. So right there, your creative team just, hey, this is a toy commercial for middle-aged men. Let's just work with that, guys. And you guys mentioned the actors already. I mean, Shia LaBeouf, who was the hotness. We had Megan Fox, who was hot. But really, who were we there to see in the Transformers film? Or should I say...
Optimus Prime.
Yes. Josh, before I even have a chance to point at him, yes. Peter Cullen. Chef's kiss. No one watched the Transformers for the human characters. We watched it for the Transformers. And that they went back and said to the original voice actor of Optimus Prime, Peter Cullen, said, "Guy, you want to do this?" And just, yes.
I got a story about that too when you're done. But yeah.
Now, I'm trying my damnedest not to step on your toes here, Dan, because I know fucking shit about this movie. I know a lot, so I'm trying not to step on your toes.
And I'm trying not to get too eager about that because this is not a smart film. This is a nostalgia film. This is for us who grew up with this series. Don't have to think about a lot of things. You didn't have to think a lot about the show either. So have fun with this. And that's kind of the production on this one. So Nigel, do you have any trivia about this film?
Yeah, I do. I have a little bit. And I'm sure you guys are going to chime in on some stuff too, because this is just both a film that all three of us have seen, probably multiple times. It's a franchise that's near and dear to our hearts. Like, I know all three of us love Transformers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we just remember the toys, we remember the different cartoons, the different animated series. But I do have a couple things, mostly pertaining to Peter Cullen as the voice of Optimus Prime. So originally the studio wanted big names to be the voices of the Transformers that had speaking roles. And that was even after the studio capitulated that they should even have speaking roles. More on that in a minute.
Interesting.
So they originally were not going to have any of the original voice actors come in and do any of the big names. I think originally the idea was that baby Peter Cullen would have a cameo as one of the other Autobots, but not Optimus Prime or something like that. But there was actually a letter writing campaign, and it mostly started at when this movie was originally announced to be in pre-production, to get Peter Cullen to be the voice of Optimus Prime, because Peter Cullen had actually not voiced Optimus Prime since the end of the 1984 to 86 animated series. He was not the voice of Optimus Primal in the Beast Wars and Beast Machines cartoons. He was not the voice of Optimus Prime in like Transformers Armada or Transformers Energon, which were the two Transformers series that were on TV at the time this movie was in pre-production.
Yeah, so almost 20 years.
Yeah, he had not voiced Optimus Prime in 20 years. In fact, up until this movie came out and Peter Cullen's resurgence as Optimus Prime throughout all of these Bayformers films, Peter Cullen was actually more generally known to most audiences as the voice of Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. He was the voice of Eeyore in multiple Winnie the Pooh animated shorts and animated movies, so most people knew him as the voice of Eeyore. So Peter Cullen was not their first choice to play Optimus Prime. However, there was a letter writing campaign. They really wanted Peter Cullen to come back and do the voice. Well, they actually wanted Peter Cullen and Frank Welker, who was the voice of Megatron in the original animated series. They could not get Chris Latta. Chris Latta was the voice of Starscream. He's actually very famous as the voice of Starscream and the voice of Cobra Commander. Shout out to G.I. Joe last week. He unfortunately passed away in the 90s, so he could not come in to do the voice of Starscream. But
That just sounds like an excuse on his part.
it does. It sounds like a typical lazy Starscream thing.
Dude, just step up. Just once.
Yeah, I know. Just one time.
Try harder. Try harder.
The fans want this. But the compromise was we'll get Peter Cullen to voice Optimus Prime because he's going to have more lines. But at the time, Michael Bay was not impressed with Frank Welker as the voice of Megatron, and so decided to go with what the studio wanted, which was a big name actor to be Megatron. So they went with Hugo Weaving to be the voice of Megatron. Unfortunately, working with Hugo Weaving was a pain in the ass this entire film. And then Hugo Weaving proceeded to pretty much bury the movie in media and basically tell everybody, yeah, I only did this for money. I read the lines without knowing what they even mean. He didn't even read the full script. He only read the lines he was supposed to record and did all of his recordings in like less than a day or two.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, he was kind of a bear. He was a real bear to work with. Now, Megatron doesn't have a whole lot of lines in this film, but he does have some. But Hugo Weaving was not fun to work with, was not pleasant to work with, and Michael Bay did not want to bring him back in any way, shape, or form. So, starting with Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, which was the sequel to this film, Frank Welker came back as the voice of Megatron, and I do believe he's the voice of Megatron or some of the other villains in some of the other Transformers films going forward. But Michael Bay did learn his lesson. Working with professional voice actors is different than just hiring an actor to be a voice. There's a difference.
I mean, we've been saying that as like fans of these sorts of things for years.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why spend?
There's a few. I think there's a few that can do both. I think in the third film, which is Dark of the Moon, Leonard Nimoy does the voice of Sentinel Prime.
Yep.
And Leonard Nimoy was also the voice of Galvatron
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
in the Transformers 86 movie, the animated film.
Mm-hmm.
I think Leonard Nimoy can do voice acting and acting. Like, he's fine with both. There's other actors that can do both, but then there are some times where they get just an actor to do voice work, and it just sounds like they're just reading lines. They don't care. So
Time out real quick, Dan.
go ahead.
Frank Welker did not take over the voice for Megatron until the third movie. Hugo Weaving did it for the Revenge of the Fallen.
Did he really?
Did he?
Yep, just check.
Okay,
just
I
look
must
it
have
up.
read the wrong. I must have read the wrong thing.
Yeah, Revenge of the Fallen. I just checked it. Hugo Weaving was the voice for Megatron. Frank Welker did do voice work on Revenge of the Fallen. He was Soundwave, Devastator, and Reedman.
That's right. He was Soundwave in. Okay,
That's
all
right.
you're
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Because he also did the voice
You're
of
right.
Soundwave in the original cartoon series too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Frank Welker is a very famous voice actor and still very much beloved to this day, just like Peter Cullen. But Frank Welker is actually more famous for doing animal voices. He is the voice of like Nibbler on Futurama. Honestly, read his IMDb page. The guy's been in thousands of different things.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
the guy is still working strong to this day. But yeah, Frank Welker is a very good voice actor. He was very much missed in this film. But the fans were happy that Peter Cullen came back to do Optimus Prime, and Peter Cullen himself was so pleased to do it. He was deeply touched that the fans still remembered him. Remember, at the time, he had not voiced Optimus for 20 years. So he was touched that the fans still knew him by name and still were like writing letters to the studio to say, hey, hire this guy to be the voice actor. And the first time he got a script to read Optimus's lines, he likened it to slipping on an old pair of shoes that are still broken in.
And he hadn't lost a single step.
He hadn't lost a step.
Dude, for our younger listeners, you don't understand how awesome it was when he first got on and introduced himself and started speaking like Optimus Prime.
Yeah, one of his very first lines is, "My name is Optimus Prime," and my theater applauded.
Dude,
I think you were
yeah.
there that night. I think you were there that night.
Tears,
Like,
just single
yeah,
tears. Like,
that-
yes, you are.
Yes.
Yes, you are.
It was like, yeah, it was awesome hearing his voice again. Like, it was so awesome.
Dude, meta thing about it, this was almost a year before the three of us started hanging out.
Oh my God, it is, yeah.
Holy shit, yeah.
Because I was still active duty at the time. I was just getting back from overseas when this movie came out. And I would be moving to Ohio the next year.
Damn.
Wow.
That's,
Again, moments in time.
yeah. It's all blurred together with the 2000s for me. Damn.
Yeah, because I was just thinking, I'm all like, why didn't I go see this movie with you guys? Oh, that's right. We hadn't met yet.
So, one last quick thing I was telling you about how the studio was even okay with voices at first was actually the studio initially requested that they try to make it so that the robots don't talk at all because some producer thought that it would come across as silly and unrealistic and dumb.
In a movie about robots that turn into cars and jets.
I know. This is why sometimes producers just need to be producers. Anyways, Michael Bay already knew that he was going to get some backlash for any changes to the franchise that he was going to make for the movie to make this work on film. He's like, I'm already going to get shit because Optimus Prime might not be the right color. If he doesn't speak, I'll never have a successful movie again.
And that was a good call on his part. I remember a bunch of us being kind of a little upset with some of his aesthetic choices in the film, but
Yeah.
you know, I may be jumping ahead of myself on this
Yeah,
one.
I got stuff that I'm going to be talking about in my initial thoughts. Just yeah.
Well, one last thought, or one last thing before we go to initial thoughts, was actually the compromise was all the Transformers can talk, but to kind of give a little bit of a barrier for the humans and the Transformers to overcome to be able to work together, Bumblebee doesn't speak in the movie. Bumblebee only speaks with radio, basically. So they figured it would be too easy if Bumblebee could just transform into the robot and say, yeah, I'm a robot from space and we got other robots coming and then there's bad robots too. Like if he could just explain the whole plot, that would be exposition dumping that would turn off the audiences.
Oh, yeah.
So
And actually, it was a nice touch too, because they did keep that feature in the other ones, even though technically at the end of this one, he did get his voice back.
Yes.
It was a nice addition.
yeah, so that's all I've got for most of the trivia. I'll talk about other stuff as we're going through the movie, but I really want to get into the group discussion here before we get into the movie itself. So,
But Nigel, what are your expectations going into this viewing?
well, I come by it honestly. I am a huge Transformers fan. I think next to Star Trek, it's my second favorite IP franchise of all time. Like I have lots of different Transformers. I still buy the remastered toys when they come out every now and then. So I was really looking forward to this film when it was coming out. They had been talking about a live-action Transformers film since like the 90s, which thinking back to what a Transformers looked like to film in the 90s, probably a good thing it didn't come out. But they've been talking from a live-action Transformers film for a long time. So my expectations were pretty high. I still have a soft spot for this film. I recognize that it's not great. It's got some flaws. It's a Michael Bay film. It's a popcorn movie. But I do still have a soft spot for it. I think that... it's Shia LaBeouf before he gets too Shia LaBeouf. You know, like he hasn't reached peak Shia LaBeouf yet.
Yeah, he's
so,
still coming off, what was it, Even Stevens?
and Holes. Holes was his big role before this
Well,
one.
no, but Even Stevens was his Disney Plus or
Yeah.
Disney Channel show that got him popular, that got him Holes.
Yeah.
That's
And
what she
actually,
said.
I think the big film he was in, because I had this as part of my production, was Disturbia.
Oh yeah.
And he was in Constantine and Charlie's Angels Full Throttle, but his first real like lead role was Disturbia.
Right. That's like a Rear Window kind of movie, isn't it? Like,
Oh, Tip to Toe is a Rear Window.
yeah. Okay. But yeah, the movie is, like I said, it's Shia LaBeouf before he gets peak Shia LaBeouf, so he's not that annoying in this film. Like, he's not actually. I don't think he's that aggravating at all. To me, the character Sam doesn't get annoyed until Revenge of the Fallen, and that movie's terrible, anyways. But hearing Peter Cullen as the voice of Optimus was a treat at the time. That was a member berry before member berries were member berries. I don't know. My expectations are kind of the same as they were last week. I know this is not going to be a good or great film, but it should be a fun film, and I'm really looking forward to watching it with you two. I think we're going to have fun watching this movie together, pointing out both its flaws and its strengths, but that's my expectation for it. What about you, Josh?
You were talking about how fans would be outraged if they changed certain nuances of it. I remember watching the live stream where they announced the 6 Autobots in this film, and I was super excited for that. And then I remember when they finally showed what they were. And I'm like, wait, you're saying Ironhide and Ratchet aren't the same van, just different colors?
Yeah.
It's like, how dare you change Optimus Prime from his G1 thing? And I remember watching an interview with Shia LaBeouf where he was basically like, you know what, fans just need to suck it. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, because, who gives a shit about G1, G2, or whatever? This is its own Transformers thing. And I'm like, fuck you, dude. You're like 4.
Yeah.
I was very prominently in my late 20s at this point, and obviously I was right.
Yeah, and I remember when they announced that Megatron wasn't going to be a gun, and I still had the nostalgia goggles on from the 1984 show or 86 show or whatever. He's going to transform into like a futuristic jet, like he's a Cybertronian jet, because he doesn't get an Earth form for plot reasons. And I'm like, that's dumb. Why didn't he transform into a gun? And then, like, I think it was Robert Orci said it made no sense for him to transform into a gun anyways. He already has a gun. Like, he has his arm cannon. Why does he need to transform into a different gun?
I remember similar, but it was Michael Bay was explaining that. But it was, why would the main guy of the Decepticons transform into something that somebody else needs to use? And I'm like, I'll allow it.
And now that I'm older, and Megatron's actually only ever turned into a gun in the original cartoon and comic book, I'm like, okay, yeah, him transforming into a personal sidearm kind of is dumb, So I'm like,
I have a gun that transforms into another gun. It's brilliant.
The absolute best bit of irony, though, was that they originally wanted Bumblebee to be a Volkswagen Beetle like he is in the cartoon. But Volkswagen would not give them the rights to use their car to be used as a robot in the movie. So there is a Volkswagen Beetle in the movie, but it's not Bumblebee. Because Volkswagen didn't want to, quote, be associated with something that causes so much violence. Knowing the origins of Volkswagen, I find that hilarious. So honestly, the one company that really wanted to give them all the rights was Chevrolet, which is why everyone turns into a Chevrolet.
But continue your thoughts, expectations here, Josh.
I don't know. Dan's doing a good job with it.
Putting myself on mute. I get overly excited with Transformers films. I want to eventually get to a point where we're doing all of these movies, all three of us.
I don't know. I remember when we walked out of, what was it, last night? We're all like, dude, we just got a concussion.
No, it was Age of Extinction was the one that gave me a concussion.
Oh, God, jeez. Yeah, that was the one with, like, Devastator balls or something.
No,
that was like...
That was the second one.
That's the next one. Yeah.
No, that was the first one with Mark Wahlberg is the one that gave us the concussion.
Yeah,
But,
we had to go. Yeah, I'm stepping on your toes here, Josh. Go ahead.
I just want to take my thoughts. It's fine.
Josh thinks this film is going to be amazing, guys, and here's why.
Yep. Yep. Dude, I had a fucking nostalgia hard on for this film when I saw it the first time in theaters. I think it was one of the few films I'm like I always judge how much I love a movie by how quickly I want to watch it again. Even if a movie's not that great, but if it hit all the right notes, say what you want about the 2016 Ghostbusters film. When I got out of the theaters after watching that film, I was like, that was a lot of fun. I want to go watch it again because it hit a lot of the right beats for me. This one was fucking like a concerto of all the right notes for me. because I absolutely loved the animated Transformers film. That shit would be on repeat for me for like 10 years. My parents were cheap, so I never had all the toys, but my friends did, and I loved playing with them. But man, my biggest gripe about this movie would be the one scene when he said my absolute favorite line, "One shall stand and one shall fall." Like at the time when the movie was watching, dude, I had like a massive erection when he said that. Looking back on it, it's one of those ones where it's like you look back on it and you're like, dude, why wasn't it the video that is showing on screen was fucking Shia LaBeouf running through a trench when he was saying that in the background? And I'm like, that pisses me off. Seriously.
Just lying awake at 3 a.m. It's like, why did he say that?
Yeah, it's like, why did they do that? Why was that a creative choice? Who the fuck signed off on that? But it's like when it was happening, it was the greatest thing ever. I'm just like, oh my God, he said the line. But no, overall, I would say out of all the Transformers films, I personally think it's better than Rise of the Beasts. And it'd be hard for me to make a decision right now on Bumblebee because it's been so long since I've seen this movie. I'll answer that question afterwards. But anywho, those are my initial thoughts. Thompson, what about you? What are your initial thoughts or expectations?
Well, my initial expectations when this movie was new were... Oh, I don't think I was quite at my Tom hates all movies phase, but I was definitely the early stages of it. And a lot like you, Josh, just seeing some of the more aesthetic choices they made with the Autobots, some of the things that Shia LaBeouf had been saying and Michael Bay had been saying. It's like, well, these things they did in the cartoon were dumb. Our film's not going to be dumb. It's just kind of really got under my skin there. So initial was like, it's gonna suck, but I'm gonna go see it anyways. Maybe I'll be wrong. I still don't understand why they gave Optimus Prime a mouth. They could have just kept the face guard.
Oh my
thingy.
God, I forgot about that. I forgot the angry rage that people threw about that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it was and also he had flame decals. They gave Optimus Prime flame decals. Like, why does he have flame decals? I know this is it's the early 2000s. That's why he has flame decals. Okay.
It was definitely the 2000s.
I'm really glad they didn't have RC in there because as a female Transformer, they would have gave her a tramp stamp. They would have had some kind of decal when she transformed into her Autobot form. She would have absolutely had a tramp stamp because the early 2000s were garbage, the hottest of garbage. But that's a rant for another time. But honestly, going into the film, and again, Nigel and I saw that, just hearing Peter Cullen's voice, it's like, okay, I'll give anything else this does a reasonable pass. And so I think had they gone with someone else other than Peter Cullen, we would not be watching this today, for sure.
Yeah, like, imagine how pissed off you would have been if Flame Decals has a mouth not voiced by Peter Cullen. That is a trifecta of pissed that I just don't even want to see.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you know that on Rise of the Beast, was it Rise? No, it was Bumblebee. Optimus Prime was originally not voiced by Peter Cullen.
Really?
That's why he says it's his least favorite Transformers movie, because they brought him on at the last second and he couldn't be Optimus Prime. He had to follow the vocal cues of the guy who recorded all the lines before them. So it's like Hollywood's like, dude, no, we want this movie to be good. We have to bring in Peter Cullen. But we've already got all the animations done and the other voice actor done. It's like, no, bring in Peter Cullen or people are going to hate this film.
I mean, they weren't wrong. They were actively seemed like they were trying to piss everyone off. I know it's just death by paper cuts, but we all grew up with it. It was a part of our childhood. It's like someone coming in, it's like, here's your favorite Uncle Ted, and it's just not Ted. You notice it. They're saying, no, it's Ted. It's like, no, this is not Uncle Ted. Or it's like if they were to do like Uncle Buck, but like they digitally removed John Candy from it and put in the guy from fucking Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Kevin James.
Yeah, if they digitally put in Kevin James in that film, it's like, you'd be pissed off.
Or just even that, remake it with Kevin James.
Fucking piss me the right off.
Yeah.
Like we obviously don't have John Candy. He can't come back for that role, and there's no amount of science or CG that can do that for us. But
yet.
Tragically, you're not wrong, Josh. No, going into it, I was very low expectations. This one, I'm just going to have fun with it. I enjoyed the first one. I didn't like it. I thought it was a shitty film, but not like italicized shitty. It was just like, it's a bad film, but I know what I'm getting into. And having seen some of the other Michael Bay Transformers, especially the first of the Wahlberg ones, just knowing how bad it's going to get, I like to see when it was at its high water mark.
Yeah, I actually liked the third one. I like Dark of the Moon a lot. I thought that one was pretty good. But I hated Revenge of the Fallen.
Oh, that one was so bad.
I know Michael Bay is kind of known for lowbrow humor in his films, and that's fine. There's an audience for it.
Mm-hmm.
But like Devastator balls, really? That and those
Racist
racist
Tom Kenny?
fucking
Yes.
the two racist robots that are black stereotypes basically, and all the wrong black stereotypes. It's like
These are films made in the early 2000s, guys. There were such things as not as bad stereotypes.
yeah,
We were there.
like,
Movie in 2007, or was that 2009? Like, if it was released today, probably needs a disclaimer saying the views in this movie are not the same as the views nowadays. So
Yeah.
we are
Yeah.
leaving
Yes.
them in there as a part of our historical.
yeah, because like I don't mind, and I also don't mind some of the comedy and some of the humor in the Transformers films, and some of the silliness of the Transformers franchise itself. Because like again, the cartoon was a 30-minute toy commercial, and has always had a little bit of a degree of silliness in it. And I also know that the vast majority of the people that are going to be watching this are going to be kids with their parents.
Yeah.
No, because they're taking their kids to see it. It's the parents that watch the cartoon as a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't mind some of the silliness of the Transformers movies and some of that stuff, but this movie they were able to cover up some of the more questionable decisions with at least a solid action film
Mm-hmm.
and make some of it decent with like the voice casting choices and some of the other stuff. But Revenge of the Fallen was like bad decisions and bad writing and just really bad stuff all around.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, like, I don't know. It feels like 07. Like, I think if that was any other movie, it rode the nostalgia wave pretty hard. At the time, that was what led the nostalgia wave in movies. They're like, oh, wait, people want movies based off of 80s IPs? Okay, all the 80s IPs now.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was 2 years later, we started getting a lot of 80s IPs get at their resurgence.
well, that's also because some of the Hollywood writers at the time were the same age as us.
Yeah.
And that's usually what happens is that the writers get to a certain age where they're the ones who are in the business. So they start writing the stuff that they liked when they were kids. It's the same reason why like DC Comics in the 80s and 90s killed off Barry Allen as Flash. And then they also killed off Hal Jordan as Green Lantern. But then like the guys who grew up loving Barry Allen and Hal Jordan as Green Lantern eventually grew up to be writers of DC and brought them back because like those are the guys that were Green Lantern and Flash when I was growing up. So I'm going to bring them back. And I imagine at some point in time, like Kyle Rayner fans will get in positions of power at DC Comics and Kyle Rayner will be the head Green Lantern again. It's just, it's what happens.
So honestly, comic book talk is a whole other monster for me anymore. So
Yeah.
but yeah.
Dude, what was my thought? I totally lost it.
I mean, I do credit this film and them bringing Peter Cullen in, at least for the first one. Obviously, our standards for nostalgia have changed since there. But sounds like you remembered your thought there, Josh.
Yeah, this was the movie that was basically broke the dam and like 80s nostalgia.
Yeah.
Because this movie, I feel like, was successful based off of nostalgia. Like, it was not a terrible film, but it was very cookie cutter if you look at just the plot points and everything going on. And it definitely established the Transformers formula.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because what wasn't a couple years later, we got the Battleship movie.
Yeah.
Like I said, G.I. Joe was a couple years after. It's just the wave of 80s nostalgia in movies came out after this time. Like, hell, I even think Gem and the Holograms, next week's movie, is a byproduct of that. Needless to say, I think that was what, 2015? So that wasn't even 7 years after this one. Still, I mean, if you look at movies, like every year, it's very little originality, a lot more of reboots and remakes.
And it's been carrying over for the modern cinema too. It's like
Oh,
you've been
yeah.
seeing. I mean, SpongeBob SquarePants has had what, 2 movies now? We had the Simpsons movie. I'm pretty sure at some point someone's going to make a live action Phineas and Ferb.
Well, the
I'm
kids who watch
surprised-
that's going to be in the 2030s, Tom.
Yeah, because the kids that, like, my daughter is the age of kids who grew up watching Phineas and Ferb, and once people her age get about another 15 to 20 years in the future, they'll be writers in Hollywood. That's when you'll see a resurgence with things like Phineas and Ferb again.
The
and stuff
rebooted
like that.
series, the movies.
Yeah.
Basically, that's when they're going to bring it back. And they'll bring back the original writers, the original voice actors, and all that other good shit. But
yeah.
that's why, because if you notice right now, we're transitioning from 80s content in movies, modern movies, to 90s content in modern movies. So we're probably less than 7-8 years away from migrating into early 2000s content in modern movies.
Right.
So the movies coming out are going to revolve around this shit.
That actually made sense because, like, the most recent Transformers film, Rise of the Beast, takes place in the 90s.
In the 90s, exactly.
And Beast Wars was the show of the 90s. Beast Wars was the Transformers show in the 90s, not Transformers. It was Beast Wars.
Yep.
So it made sense that Beast Wars took place in the 90s because 90s kids that grew up watching Beast Wars.
Yeah, because the kids that was the age in the 90s, they're now at that point where it's like, we want to see shit in the 90s. I mean, I honestly would credit Captain Marvel for kicking that off in terms of pushing 90s stuff. But that's where we're at.
Yep.
Early double aughts is coming up, guys.
Oh, it kind of already is. I mean, Netflix has that Scott Pilgrim anime thing now. It's like came out recently. So that's based on the movie that came out in 2008.
So we're getting there.
Yep, it's our nostalgia is no longer the nostalgia, guys. It's the new nostalgia.
Yeah, and I think out of the nostalgia wave, this is the movie that started it.
And the fact that, you know, you can have original voice actors in the new stuff, whereas in the past, like when they make the Phineas and Ferb, no, we're not going to have the original voice actors, and the forums would be pissed off that Doofenshmirtz is voiced by Seth Rogen.
Yeah, God, I'd be pissed off about that.
I was pissed off when they made the Super Mario Brothers film, and it was Chris Pratt doing Mario, and not the.
Oh my God! And Seth Rogen is Donkey Kong.
Okay, Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong was pretty genius, though. I will give him that one.
Dude, I will admit, though, I hate the movies where they bring in the actors as voice actors. There is a definitive difference. But I will give Jack Black some credit. You listen to that movie, you wouldn't be able to specifically say that was Jack Black.
Oh, there's some that can do it.
Oh,
I think there's some that can do both acting and voice acting. I'm just saying that a lot of people think that voice acting isn't that hard to do. And I'm like, I think voice acting is very hard to do.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Like, you may be the world's best actor, but put you in a booth, you ain't shit.
Yeah, because, like, nothing against Hugo Weaving. I think Hugo Weaving's a phenomenal actor. I think he's a terrible Megatron.
Oh, absolutely, yes. And just everything you were saying in the trivia about how he was just being an asshole. Like, dude, come on. You're a fucking robot from an 80s cartoon. Get off your horse.
Well, he was just coming off of the Matrix trilogy and the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
He could pretend to be an elf, but he can't pretend to be a tank.
I'm just saying, Transformers hadn't been a thing in almost 20 years. So I'm just giving him a little credit here. It's like, you want me to come in and voice a thing from the 80s, which he was probably in his 20s then. You just want me to play this guy named Megatron? Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll do it. So it wasn't nostalgia for him. It was a paycheck.
All I'm going to say is, since we're done talking about it, let's watch it. Autobots transform and Tom play the music.
Hey, welcome back to another transformative episode of the Firepit. I am, as always, your interspersal host, editor, and Cybertronian Dr. Dom. Looks like your catalytic converter got logged up in the old Colo exhaust port during mid-transformation. Happens a lot in these older models. You know, just have them take 2 of these suppositories, and that should clear things right up. Whew! And thank you for clearing your calendar to be here with us at the Firepit. We're hitching a ride, Autobot style, to Castle Graveskull and Masters of the Universe, here on the second part of our Super Saturday Super Power Hour. Going back through the classic early aught movies based off of the classic mid-80s cartoons has been a transformative experience, and we're glad to have you roll out with us all the way through. Insert third Transformers pun here. And speaking of inserting things, let's insert ourselves into the team and see how Constable Guillotine is coming along.
Justice stands on a razor's edge.
Good read for Constable Guillotine, chat. We'll be in touch.
Thank you very much.
Where do you get these guys?
What are you talking about? I thought he was great.
Oh my God, you said that for the last 7 guys. The first episode of Constable Guillotine has got to be perfect. And it won't be perfect until we get the perfect Constable Guillotine.
We've been at this all day. Can we please just have a break?
Guys. I think we're losing focus on what's important, which is our new breakout character, Chud the Talking Head Bucket. See, he's got the little googly eyes, and look at him.
Next actor, please.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name's Malone. I'm here for the read.
Sure. Can you please read line 2 on page 15, please?
Ah, sure. Hang on 1 second here. A king who stands by idly as his people suffer is no king of mine. Wow, this is pretty good for...
No, sir. Page 15. Page 15, please.
A bootlicker like you should love the taste of my guillotine sword. I thought this was supposed to be a kid's cartoon.
Stick to the script, please, sir.
Oh, real quick, guys, could we have him try Guillotine's secret identity? Change it up a bit?
Fine. Sir, can you read for Ambassador William Short the 14th on page 8?
It just says laughs for 4 straight minutes as the slaughter continues into the commercial break. You know, on second thought, I don't think I'm the right fit for this role. Good day, gentlemen.
Next.
My guillotine.
Next.
My guillotine!
Next.
My sword, the guillotine sword!
Next.
Guillotine! Right now I'm gonna hit you with my...
Look at the size of my guillotine as I...
Oh my god, there's blood everywhere!
Next.
To me, my guillotine sword!
Next. We don't have that in the budget.
I'm looking for the bathroom.
Next.
So is the guillotine a sword or is the sword a guillotine?
Yes.
Yo, Mikey, my guillotine sword!
Y'all thought we hit for the same
We was!
Yo, Mikey, we're here for the same
Next. Oh my god, next.
Chud!
For the last time, Tom, we're not doing Chud.
But think of the merchandise!
No.
Chud.
Josh, can we please call it a day now?
I just don't get it. It can't be that hard to be able to voice 2 characters at the same time.
Easy for you to say.
You just have Constable Guillotine be all...
By my guillotine.
Yeah, and then you just have Ambassador Short be like, I will protect the people of Space France with my guillotine.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I think I might be. I should
voice
both
characters. Wait, no, I should voice them.
No, it's my turn.
No, I'm better.
Hello? Studio heads? I think I have a new character to add to the toy line. I'm Optimus Prime, and with this guillotine we shall light our darkest... Nope, never mind. Leave that to the professionals. But if you want to light our darkest hour with some movie suggestions, or if you have some advertisements that you want to light up our pocketbooks with, or if you just want to have a light conversation, then feel free to email us at curtaincallentertainmentinc@gmail.com. That's curtaincallentertainmentinc@gmail.com. Feel free to put Firepit in the subject line, as well as why you're emailing, whether it's to buy some ad space, sell us on a journey idea, trade in some juicy gossip, or what have you, and send it our way. From there, we'll read it, transform it into a digital signal style, send it to a distant planet of transforming robots engaged in a billion-year civil war, and never respond. See, apparently it got flagged as being from a spam bot. What are the odds? But that email again is curtaincallentertainmentinc@gmail.com, capital C, capital C, capital E, capital I, @gmail.com. Yeah, look like I got another customer. And patient. I'ma check this fella's proverbial and literal fluids. I'll let you get back to the episode. Thank you all for listening, and as always, good luck. Hey, oh, by the Allspark! Do you bother chewing your energon before swallowing? It's like a demolition derby up in here. Hey, oh, what's the matter?
And now to check on the team to see how they're enjoying their movie.
Actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf.
Actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf.
You think I'm shallow, huh?
I think there's a lot more than meets the eye.
Ah, he said the thing! He said the thing!
This is like a romantic thing that I'm not trying to do. I'm a friend of yours. I'm not a romantic friend.
Just jump off the cliff, dude. Just.
Whoa, nice headers. You've got a high-rise double pump carburetor. That's pretty impressive, Sam.
And I know what all that means.
The fuel in so you can go fast.
I like your headers and
I
distributor.
do like your double pump
cap.
carburetors as well.
Looks like your distributor caps.
I bet you've got great hydraulics.
Boobs.
Hydraulic boobs.
Yeah.
Marry me.
Now, almost an hour into the Transformers movie, we have yet to see a Transformer.
You would be.
I'm just the analyst who detected the hack.
Hold on.
The hot blonde figured it out. Gentlemen, the hot blonde figured it out. She can hack into my underpants anytime.
Get the president out of here.
Did we kill you guys?
You just killed the villagers, but we're fine. Oh, okay, cool. So no one important died.
That's sad.
What is it?
It's a robot.
In disguise.
Damn it! You beat me to it.
Are you Samuel James Witwicky, descendant of Archibald Witwicky? My name is Optimus Prime.
Yes,
You are, sir.
Are you new to school?
Oh, no. We've been in the same school since first grade.
Really?
Yeah.
This is me with every popular girl I ever had a crush on.
Freedom is the right of all sentient beings.
He said the line!
He said the line!
Sure, Hugo Weaving. Okay.
In the alien archive, sir. There's an old Army radio console.
I find it amazing that two amazing veteran actors, John Voight and John Turturro, are like, fuck, we're in a Transformers film. This is great. My grandkids get to watch this.
I'm getting a % of the merchandise. I'm set for life.
Where is the cube? The humans have taken it. You fail me yet again, Starscream.
Motherfucker, you've been frozen for 100 years. I've been running this show. Who's winning? Thank you.
Bumblebee. Legs.
Bumblebee ain't got no legs.
Bumblebee. Get up.
Then he says to get up. Do you see that I do not, in fact, have legs, dumbass?
At the end of this day, one shall stand, one shall fall.
He said the line!
He also said the other line.
The city's mayor's like, I am never going to financially recover from this.
But it's a giant frozen robot, and they put it in the desert.
Tom.
Nigel.
It only works if you don't overthink it.
Dan said the line. Hey.
And now, back to the episode.
What I want is myself.
All right, so Tom is still singing the Linkin Park song at the end of this film. We've obviously just finished Transformers 2007, and we're going to have some final thoughts. And since Tom is still rocking out to the Linkin Park song, Tom, what are your final thoughts there?
Boy, this movie kind of sucked.
Well, yeah.
I mean, honestly, it was a fun film. Most of it. The Michael Bay stuff was Michael Bay stuff. I mean, the guy knows explosions. That part of the stuff was fine. And the first part of the film, the first third, I'd say was all right. Because it was just your standard Michael Bay-ish stuff. You got your quirky characters, your kind of greasy, grimy LA setting, or everything just seems like it's just really hot and nasty all the time. And just the interactions and the setup, the build up to when the Autobots show up, the action in the desert, which honestly I think I appreciate more nowadays than I did back then. Now that stuff was fine and held up. I was like, okay, this is pretty good stuff. It's not great, but it's cartoony. It's fine. But then we got to like the second half, the second act, when the Autobots do show up, and it just drags on and on. The stuff with the house, the stuff with Section 7, you could have cut out like 15 minutes of that and lost nothing. And the humor when they showed up. You had the stuff with the Transformers. You had a dog pissing on a Transformer. You had a Transformer pissing on a human. It was just juvenile as fuck. And it just really took me out of it. But once we got near the end, we got to the action stuff again, and we got to the explosions. We got to Jazz being ripped in half like the last wishbone in the turkey. Everything got fine again. It got Michael Bay. I don't know whether to blame it on Michael Bay or to blame it on Kirkman. I'm going to blame it on Kirkman. Looking at the current stuff with Star Trek and all that bullshit, I'm laying it all on Kirkman and the other guy whose name I can't remember off the top of my head. So it's as a passing grade paper. It's still passed, but it was like the notes are like, you could do better. You rambled at this part. So I'll go on further, but that's my initial thoughts. I think definitely harsher than the first time I saw it, but overall I still enjoyed the overall experience. Josh, what about you?
Oh, let's see. Well, I've seen this movie a lot more times than I care to admit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I saw it 2, maybe 3 times in theaters because I loved it. But as much as I want to disagree with you, Tom, and say you're wrong, I think you're wrong, but in different areas of the movie.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I like that it was like almost 45, 50 minutes until we saw Bumblebee in action. I think nowadays we really take for granted how action-heavy movies are. This movie does a better job of establishing the human characters and making you want to root for them. Like, if you look at Godzilla versus Kong,
mm-hmm.
the one that just came out like a year or 2 ago, like Eleven from Stranger Things, her character is almost pointless in that movie. You only care about her because she was in the previous movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, what is she even doing? I don't care about this part. Get me to the other stuff with the other characters that I want to care about. You're only putting her in this film because she was in the last one. And she had a bigger role in the last one than she did in this one.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But, like, they were building up the human characters. Where in later Transformers movies, it's like, yeah, they're going to introduce the human characters, but you don't care about them because there was nothing for them.
Yeah, we're here for the robots. It's just like, oh, it's Wahlberg. He's fine. He's just like, he's the guy to look up at the robots to show them. Yeah, they're giant. Yeah,
this one, I think they did a good job of building up the human characters, building up the mystique of the Transformers. Because I mean, this has been the first time we, as an audience, had seen or really dealt with Transformers outside a TV show in 20 years. Well, yeah, give or take 20 years. You know. Because some of us didn't watch TV shows during the 90s. I watched bits and pieces here and there. But I was checking my phone in the parts leading up to the action sequences in, was it Vegas they were in?
One of those desert places.
Mission City is the city they go to at the end.
Yeah, but honestly, I kind of liked how you had a slow part, bunch of action, introducing the characters. Those moments of levity. You know, we always talk about movies needing time to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that the slowdown in the first bit of the movie where they were trying to hide from mom and dad and these giant robots in the backyard destroying the backyard, I think that was a good job to kind of give us as an audience a chance to breathe, to get used to these giant robots, you know? You don't have those in the later Transformers films. They try to have that levity, those developmental parts, but they're either rushed or they make a joke and then they move to the next scene.
Mm-hmm.
Because we need to get back to the action sequences. Because if you notice in this film, the action sequences are short. Even the fight with Prime and was it Bone Claw?
Bone Crusher, I think.
Dan pointed it out. It wasn't that long. It was 15, 20 seconds on screen. Maybe 30 if you count the part leading up to that. But him and Optimus actually fighting was not that long.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about this film is it's like the small things that added to it that made it complete. It's like I made the comment, and I hope you add some of it during the played section, but talking about the small character roles. See, like one-off characters like this dude that give this movie character. There was so many like quirky things about this show.
I know.
Or this, like the random thing when he calls his best friend and he's washing his dog. What the fuck? The weird-ass cop who was on PCP. The teacher. All these small, minor characters that had a big impact. And even Shia LaBeouf in this film, LaBeouf, I don't know. He did a good job in this film, I felt. Especially relative to the other roles he was in around the time. He brought a lot of character to Sam Witwicky. Because the way Dan was talking about him, he sounded like he was kind of boring in the novelization.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie, I think, without the nostalgia, is an easy 8 out of 10. Maybe 7.5 to 8 out of 10. With the nostalgia factor, that gives it like a half point bump or a half pump. Like a 7.5, 8.5 or whatever.
Sure.
It's not great, but it does a great job of stroking that nostalgia wiener.
Josh makes a dick joke. Take a drink.
Josh said the thing.
And with that, I pass this off to Dan. Dan, what about you?
Okay, so it's going to sound like I'm wishy-washy or on the fence, but I do recognize that this movie's not great.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a good film. It's got flaws. I have a soft spot for it, mostly because I have a soft spot for Transformers in general. But as soft a spot as I do have for Transformers, I do recognize that some of the sequels, like Revenge of the Fallen and Last Concussion, or whatever the hell they called it, were awful films, like just awful. And even the fact that they had the Transformers in them doesn't redeem them at all. But I kind of agree with Tom that it does kind of slow down a little bit too much in the middle with the house sequence. Like, I don't mind the house sequence, but I feel like it could have been pulled back just a little bit and shortened,
Yeah.
And also, they do the piss on somebody joke twice in a 10-minute span. The dog pisses on Ironhide, and then Bumblebee pisses on John Turturro's character, Simmons, from Sector 7. Like, literally, that's the same gag twice. Take one of those jokes out, Michael. You don't need both of them. But I do agree that the movie kind of slows down and bogs down a little bit at that point, but they at least give you some moments to breathe and some moments to absorb the setting and get used to it. I also did enjoy the fact that the early part of the movie does build the universe a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Builds
the world and establishes the rules of that universe, which are nice. And I did like the way they portrayed, especially the Autobot characters in this. They get a little characterization. All the Autobots feel different. I like a Bumblebee's a scrappy little fighter, a little sass, little bit of an attitude about it. Ratchet is like a geek scientist who just says the wrong thing at the wrong time. Ironhide is your musclehead that just wants to shoot things. Jazz is your dad trying to be cool.
That's a polite way of putting it, yes.
Optimus is clearly the noble and wise leader. They do a good job of showing the Autobots as individuals that work as a team. That was one thing I did like about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which actually they do show in the final fight. The final fight, most of the Autobots are fighting as a team, but the Decepticons split off and very rarely do they fight together.
Mm-hmm. And then the one time that they almost did, as soon as Blackout noticed that the humans were targeting him, he's like, I'm going to go clear these guys out real quick.
Yeah, yeah. He goes after the smaller threat of the humans, who actually probably couldn't have killed him right away before he could have done some damage to Optimus.
Oh yeah, if he would have redirected his efforts and gone to Optimus and Megatron's fight, Megatron probably would have won.
Yeah, they could have maybe overpowered Optimus or something like that. But instead, he turns around and he just goes back after the humans who could hurt him, but not hurt him as substantially as like Optimus could. Either way, I did like that little bit. Like the Autobots were individuals fighting as a team, and the Decepticons were individuals fighting as individuals. Also, like Tom, I know it was a joke while we were watching it, but when Megatron does his line of "You failed me again, Starscream," and you were like, "Dude, you've been frozen. I've been running this shit." Honestly, yeah. That's why the Decepticons fail in this one, because Megatron can't even appreciate the fact that Starscream's kept the Decepticons together for 100 or 1,000 or however many years that Megatron was frozen in ice. He's just got to be like, well, no, I just woke up and you've been running things for the last century or two, but you failed me again. Like,
or does Megatron even know how long he was frozen?
Probably not.
No, probably not.
So to him, it's only been like a few hours since he crash landed.
Yeah, a few days, weeks, or whatever.
That's a good point, actually. So yeah, for him, he just woke up and it's like, I'm not even awake 5 minutes, and Jesus, Starscream.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I just like that's just to me the personification of a bad boss. Once again, show Megatron as a bad boss. But I will say the one thing I love about this film is the special effects. I raved about the whole movie.
I was hoping one of us would bring up the special effects. Go on, Nigel.
There are Marvel movies that were made last year that are already showing their age. And this movie doesn't look like it was made in 2007. You know what I mean? Like, this movie looks fantastic. Now, I think the special effects were done by ILM, who does the Marvel films. And the early Marvel movies, the Iron Mans, the Captain Americas, the Thors, they looked really good. You know, the most current Marvel movies, Wakanda Forever, Quantum of Mania, whatever it was called, awful.
16-year-old movie looks better than movies that came out this year.
Yeah, and actually large chunks of Captain Marvel looked terrible as well.
Oh, The Flash, Jesus God.
Yeah, looked terrible. But the special effects in this movie were so good. Like,
so good.
They were really good.
Yeah, Josh, you were mentioning as we were watching, like pointing out the ear stuff moving on Optimus.
I pointed that out.
That was
Nigel, you pointed out as we were watching, like the ear tweaks and like little twitches, like the CG guy saying, yeah, we don't have to do it this hard, but we can and we will.
There's story bits in this movie that take me out of the film. Like I said, like the fact that the house gag went on a little bit too long kind of bogs it down. That takes me out of the film. There was not a single moment in this movie of special effects failure that took me out of the film, that reminded me that I was watching a movie. Every single transformation sequence is smooth as butter and just so good.
Dude, even when they go fast mode, like when they're transforming really quickly, it's still incredibly quick.
Yeah, and then like the action sequences, they spent the money on the CG where they needed to spend the money on the CG. That sequence with Starscream going between the jets, he's bouncing between robot mode and plane mode, robot mode and plane mode, and like he's awesome. Like that whole sequence is great. Every time Optimus transforms, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so turned on. Like, it's so good. You know, and then when the first time Bumblebee, when he saves Sam and Michaela and he drives off and then Barricade's running after him and Barricade just leaps into the air and transforms midair and then just starts driving off. Like all of those sequences were great and almost right out of the cartoon. Animated so smoothly. So,
dude, and even the scenes between the scenes, like there's scenes where they're panning over and then it looks like Bumblebee just finished transforming and bits and pieces are just like getting
falling into
place.
place. Yeah.
Or dude, and then the extra attention to detail at the very beginning when Bumblebee was transforming, he was still in the 76 Camaro mode, and it's just like the bounce of the Camaro. It transformed, and then it had that little bounce. It's like they paid attention. You could tell that the animators were proud as shit of their work.
Yeah, and what I loved is like one of the best transformation sequences is right at the beginning of the film when Blackout, when his helicopter rotor stops spinning and he just starts transforming. His whole transformation sequence is fantastic. Like, we're going to get the audience hooked within the first 5 seconds of this film. We're going to show them that we mean business when it comes to showing these things transforming.
Oh yeah, you feel like it was real because like
you really did. The special effects were fantastic in this film. I cannot say enough about them. That will get supreme high marks for me of the movie. I enjoyed it. We can get into group discussion now. We kind of already are. I don't care. I'm just I enjoyed the film. I kind of agree with Tom. It's got some glaring weaknesses, but it
definitely does. Editing could have been better. I think
music could have been better too.
I don't know. I thought Jablonski or whatever his name is did a good job. I feel like the movie needed about 20 minutes edited out. I thought 2.5 hours was too long. I think it should have been under 2 hours.
Yeah, definitely agreed.
I kind of agree with the score, though. The score, the only 2 tracks of the score that really stand out is the Autobots showing up on Earth. Like, that whole music sequence is really, really good. And I like the pulse pounding heavy metal kind of track that was playing when Barricade started chasing Bumblebee. Like that, kind of like that. But
comparing it to the original Transformers with Stan Bush and all the other stuff, like you could like pick which scene that song's from. Oh, that's the scene where they're invading, and oh, that's the one. And this one's like
that's just not fair. You cannot compare the soundtrack of this one to Transformers '86. That is just an unfair comparison for this movie. That's an unfair comparison for any movie. Like, seriously, no, there's very few movies that could stand toe-to-toe with 86's soundtrack.
You're not wrong, but again, just like this could have tried better. Linkin Park's a great band. Loved them back in the day. Still listen to them, but in this film, all of it just felt generic early 2000s. Nothing really stood out to me.
Okay, I got a question for you guys then. I was kind of thinking about this when I think Tom, you were giving, or Dan was giving your thoughts. If there were no sequels to this movie, how would you look back on it? Or how do you think you would look back on it?
Well, one, I would wonder why they didn't make any sequels. Because
Yeah.
they clearly leave the movie open for sequels.
I'm just saying, like, as a standalone movie, without any knowledge of any of the sequels, I think that it's better. I think the success of sequels and the reiteration of the formula may make us have a little of a bad view in hindsight.
Yeah, like I think Tom mentioned it during initial, our expectations was like knowing how bad the sequels get, because the sequels are of wildly varying quality. Like Revenge of the Fallen is awful. I do think Dark of the Moon is a pretty good movie.
Mm-hmm.
I hated Age of Extinction, and The Last Night was decent, but mostly terrible. So, like,
dude, I honestly couldn't even tell you the generic plot points between those movies, the sequels. I know this one, I know Bumblebee and Rise of the Beasts. Like all the ones in between that one, I have no fucking idea what happened in any of those. What's the plot? Because all the plots literally mold together to make one Super Transformers movie. You could literally probably cut and paste like 10 minutes out of each one of those movies and put it in sequential order, and you probably couldn't even tell it's a different movie.
I mean,
yeah, you're probably not wrong.
No,
Like
you're not. I don't think you're wrong at all, Josh. No. So anyone listening that wants to spend like 20 hours of their life, making the Transformers Supercut abridged edition, go on and let us know about it. But I mean, I think all the plots to all of them are the same too. There's a MacGuffin, and they need to find it before the Decepticons do.
Yeah.
Rinse, repeat.
Plot device A: keep away from Decepticons while Autobots are fighting Decepticons. It's either like a giant seed, an Allspark, a matrix of leadership, or what the fuck ever. That's literally the plot of all of them.
And it just gets worse and worse from there. Honestly, if just to answer your question, Josh, from my perspective, if there had been no sequels after this, I'd honestly look at the flaws like, well, probably would have if it didn't suck so bad. I think I probably would have judged this movie far harsher.
Yeah, I can agree with Tom. I think if it hadn't made any sequels, the parts that I do have problems with the movie would be more amplified. Whereas now I'm willing to give them a pass.
It's like, oh yeah, that's why it probably sucked.
Mm-hmm. That's why they didn't get sequels.
Yeah. It's like one of the things, big weaknesses towards the end of the film, the Optimus Megatron fight isn't really all that much.
No, it's actually really light.
It's a really light fight, but like these two are supposed to be mortal enemies, and Prime's been waiting 100 some odd years or 1,000 years for this fight, because Megatron's been frozen and lost for so long. And, Megatron, from his perspective, has probably only been a few weeks, months, or years or something since he last saw Optimus. And he just woke up and said, fuck, this guy's still around. He's ready to fight. And then the fight's kind of a wet fart. It's just kind of disappointing.
Yeah, and then the best line, they fucking zoom in on Sam walking through bloody and just honestly, that's one of those things where it's like us and Man of Steel, fucking amazing movie until you've sat down and thought about
it. Wait a minute, I think I actually might not like this film.
Yeah, I was the same way about like one of the Star Wars sequel films. Like I walked out of the theater going, "That's not a bad film," and then like on the way home, literally on the way home, I'm like, "Wait a minute, no, God damn it, I hate this movie."
Yeah, it's like this is one of those movies like I fucking loved it watching it. I remember wanting to go out and buy the fucking Optimus Prime action figure, the big one that transformed.
Yeah.
I almost did, but I'm cheap, so I didn't. But any of the sequels did not hit me the same way this one did.
No, the only one of the sequels I even really enjoyed is I do love Bumblebee. I think that is a great film.
Oh yeah, Bumblebee, but
that's more of a reboot than a sequel. So
it is. And what's funny is like people are arguing, is it a reboot or is it a prequel to the 07 Transformers? But they came out and actually said it is in fact a reboot.
Yeah, it's a soft reboot because most of the voice actors are still the same and whatnot, but they don't even mention the Allspark or anything like that. They don't mention the reason why they're on Earth or something.
Well, apparently they had more tie-ins to this one. Like Simmons' character is a kid, or younger, I should say, which is supposed to be kind of a tie-in to John Turturro's character. And they also had a part, there's a deleted scene where they talk about NBE-1 that they was taken out because they didn't know if they wanted to tie this into the 2007 Transformers.
Okay.
Well, judging how quickly Age of Extinction and The Last Night kind of derailed the franchise a little bit as far as like storytelling and all that goes, because like say what you want about this movie, but it at least tells a coherent story that I could follow.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas The Last Night in Age of Extinction, I mean, I remember by the time we got to the really cool looking scene of Optimus Prime riding Grimlock, holding a sword and running towards the Decepticons, I'm sitting there going, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, because it just becomes giant balls of metal rolling around. At least in this movie, it's done in a way where it's just like not constant. But in the later films, that's all they do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like,
it's like,
oh my God, can I at least watch a movie?
Yeah.
You know, I just got to thinking of like John Turturro and John Voight in this film, like in other movies, like how many like almost legendary actors get attached to the Transformers movies? Like one of the more recent ones had Anthony Hopkins in it.
It did, didn't it?
Yeah, he's in like Last Night, I think.
Was he one of the voices or was he an actor?
No, he was an actor in the film.
I mean, I'm sure for some of these more seasoned professional actors, one, it's a chance to have a little fun.
Yeah.
I mean, John Turturro here is like, hey, you want to be in a Transformers film? It's like, I'm already there, guys.
And I know for some of them, like for Anthony Hopkins, the reason why he did Last Night is because he has grandchildren now, and he wanted to be in a movie that his grandchildren can go see. Because Anthony Hopkins does a lot of like movies that little kids would find boring as hell. You know what I mean?
Plus, you know, the paycheck for one of these films, especially with, say, royalties, is going to be a little bit more than, say, Titus Andronicus.
Yeah, or Hearts of Atlantis.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can say what you want about the human characters of the first three Bayformers films, like Shia LaBeouf's character and then the military guys and all that. Whether or not you like them or not, they had some personality, and I knew who they were, and they were characters I could get behind. And then like Age of Extinction and The Last Night did away with all of those characters and replaced them all with Marky Mark. And I'm like, I don't care.
I mean, you look at Marvel movies. They found out the formula and then they exploited the formula and they beat the dead horse until we didn't care anymore.
Yeah.
We've had so much of it, we're sick of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same situation with Transformers, which is why the last one prior to Bumblebee did so poorly. So,
yeah,
I don't know. It's just, it feels very Marvel-esque and that they exploited the formula. But this one established the formula. But I feel like in the successive movies, they got rid of the thing that made the first one charming.
Yeah, they did. Because this one feels like, at the end of the day, for all of its faults and flaws, this movie respected the audience and respected the source material. As much as they possibly could. I know they had to make changes to make it work on the big screen, and I'm fine with that. But the sequels kind of felt like, outside of, like I said, Dark of the Moon, which I thought was the best of the sequels, felt like they insult the audience and they insult the source material.
Oh yeah, especially the second one.
Yeah, Revenge of the Fallen might be my least favorite of all of the Transformers films.
Yeah, they just kept spamming like the clone buttons. Like the first one worked, let's just keep cloning it. We're making a copy of a copy of a copy, and eventually
I know, but it feels like, here we go, take a drink. Dan said the thing again. Dan's going to make another Star Trek reference because I did one last week when we did G.I. Joe. But it kind of feels like the difference between Star Trek 5 and Star Trek 4. Star Trek 5 was supposed to be much darker and much more serious in tone, but the producers in Paramount at the time were like, no. What made Star Trek 4 so successful was the comedy. We need more comedy, so make it funnier. So they had to reshoot like half the movie and add more jokes into the movie, and it doesn't work. Well, that's what they do with the sequels and Transformers too. They're like, everyone liked Transformers because we had comedy parts, and John Turturro's character was hilarious, and so was, and Shia LaBeouf's character was really funny. So let's just add more comedy into the Transformers movies, and because that's the stuff that people like. And I'm like, no, they were part of the movie, but that's not why the movie was successful.
Yeah, it's like, I like the frosting on a cake, but when it's all frosting, like, okay, that cake looks cool, and then they put all fondant on it.
Yeah.
I don't like this. Stop it.
Yeah, but it's icing. You like icing. No, it's fondant. It's glue icing. This is not really to be eaten in large quantities, guys.
And then, then they put way too much frosting on it. They stop focusing on the cake part. They add fondant, too much frosting, and then it's just like, it's an abomination of a cake. And you take a bite and you're like, it looked a lot better than it actually tastes. Whereas the other one looked like crap, but you enjoyed the taste. It's like, stop doing the thing that makes it worse. Anywho, back on track, guys, trying to re-rail this train.
It's hard to talk about the movies like this without talking about the franchise. If we ever do an MCU movie, it's going to be really hard to talk about it without the whole of the MCU.
You're right.
So,
and think about it this way. Either Man of Steel and or The Force Awakens. Looking at both of those. Remember how we've always made the comments, we hope the sequels make the first one better in retrospect? The same way The Dark Knight made Batman Begins better. But The Dark Knight was a fantastic film, whereas Batman v Superman and The Last Jedi were garbage. And the only reason that they made the one before it better was because they were so shitty.
Yeah, they were so bad. You're like, oh, wow, the first one wasn't too bad.
Yeah, whereas this one, it's just like, I don't know. I think Tom had it. It's a clone of a clone of a clone of a clone.
Mm-hmm.
And each time you make a photocopy of a photocopy of a photo, it's going to get worse in quality every time.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
And then you have to reboot it and hope to God that this dead horse can still be beaten a little bit more.
Well, when you finally fire, or I guess you can't say fired because he was still an executive producer. But when Michael Bay finally decided to stop doing it, it got good again.
Yes.
Out of all of them, this one is my favorite, not counting the rebooted universe with Bumblebee. I don't know. I would honestly put Bumblebee and this one. I could hear arguments for either. Having just rewatched it, I think Bumblebee is a better movie. Okay, you know what? Fuck it. Bumblebee is a better movie than this one, but this one has a lot more nostalgia behind it than Bumblebee does.
I can somewhat agree with that. Although Bumblebee hits some of the beats of the original animated movie too, with some of the music choices in that film.
Well, like honestly, they had like a small snippet of "You've Got the Touch" by Stan Bush, which was in the '86 movie. So yeah, that was a clever cameo / Easter egg. So people who didn't watch that movie wouldn't get that.
Just a little extra salt to really make the flavor pop.
Yeah, because the movie takes place a year after the first Transformers movie would have been released.
That's right, yeah.
Which is ironic because that means that Stan Bush wrote that song for Transformers '86, and they played it in Bumblebee, which took place in '87. What was that movie on? Like, what did he write that song for?
Try not to think about it too hard, guys.
Yeah,
the joke only works if you don't overthink it.
Yeah, but I think we said all we want to say about this. Does anyone have any other additional thoughts of this film? Or
no. If I go to give this go ahead.
I got a feeling once we get to Gem and the Holograms, we're gonna be like, this movie is fucking Shakespeare. So
God, yeah, shit. You're
okay,
right.
Real quick then, is this one better or worse than last week's movie? Last month's movie.
Ooh, yeah, the G.I. Joe. That's
because to our listeners, we're recording this a week after, but it was probably released a month ago.
Depending on release schedules and editors.
Last episode's movie. Let's do it that one. Is this movie better or worse than last episode's movie?
I'd have to say better, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'd have to say better too. I think it's better too.
Yeah, the last one just felt like chunks of action glued together by a not even a plot, just contrivances. My opinion of G.I. Joe has degraded fairly rapidly since we last saw it. This is definitely a lot better than G.I. Joe.
I'd have to agree.
Yeah, and also I think that at the end of the day, the G.I. Joe movie still didn't quite know what it wanted to do with the G.I. Joe universe, whereas this movie did feel like they respected and wanted to be a Transformers movie.
It was very much a great springboard for the franchise.
Yeah, it was like, okay, yep, they're giant transforming robots, fantastic. Let's make a movie about that.
Yeah, whereas like G.I. Joe, their first movie was kind of like, okay, we're going to jump down the springboard, and the springboard broke, and we tripped and fell.
Yeah.
But we're going to try again.
Yeah, and then like the producers of G.I. Joe were like, we want them to wear combat suits that enhance their abilities. And the director was like, okay, cool, that sounds awesome. And the writer's like, yeah, we'll put that in the movie. And then whereas the producers of this one were like, what if the Transformers didn't talk? And Michael Bay's like, that's stupid.
Yeah. Of course, I wonder too if it has anything to do with, because that was 2009, which was the same year. It's like they took this formula and they tried to adapt it, but it didn't work for G.I. Joe.
Yeah, this is why G.I. Joe needed Michael Bay.
Yeah. But
Anywho, I think there's no more dead horse to beat on this one, so...
Cool. That's tonight's show. And as a reminder, you can find us on firepitpodcast.com. There are links there to Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, or wherever fine podcasts are sold, bartered, or traded in your area. Our regular episodes are going to be hopefully Saturdays at 6 a.m.
The last Saturday of the month at 6 a.m. Specifically, I repeat, the last Saturday of the month at 6 a.m. Mark it down. Thank you.
Please like and subscribe to whatever medium you choose. We really appreciate it as it helps us out. And be sure to leave a review on our podcast. Whether you love it, you hate it, or you're indifferent to it, it just helps the podcast grow, helps our channel grow, and helps with our engagement.
And while you're at it, be sure to join our Discord channel. The link can be found in the episode's description at discord.me/. youtube.com/firepit. There, you'll get notifications of new episodes, and even better, you can engage in discussion with not just us, but other fans of the show. So hop on in. It'll be a fun time, hopefully.
And you can email us at curtaincallentertainmentinc@gmail.com. Don't forget to like our page on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. I feel dirty saying that now. But if you are on the X, the Twitter, the whatever they want to call it now, it's at Firepit CCE. Both are linked in the episode's description.
Shout outs. I'd like to shout out, as usual, Peggy, the OG friend of the channel. I would also like to shout out Kyle, gentleman I work with out in Iowa. Kyle is a huge Transformers fan. He actually puts me to shame. Loves this movie, was excited that we were doing it for the podcast, so I hope he listened to it and I hope he enjoyed it. And Tom didn't like it, so please direct your messages to him. But, Kyle, I hope you enjoyed it. And also Tyler at work, who has a masterpiece Megatron on his desk, a rather expensive Transformer that he had imported from Japan. Tyler's a big Transformers fan too. Hope they enjoyed it. They were looking forward to us doing this, and both would like us to do the 86 animated movie at some point in time as well.
I agree with them. We need to do that. I would like to give kind of a shout out to a former commander of mine who recently passed away. He was an awesome guy, one of the nicest people I've ever met. You will be missed. Colonel Julian. He was, I've been dealing with that. He was my commander for like 7 years. Recently passed away. This is December when we're recording this, so it's still kind of fresh for me. But I will miss you, and condolences to the family.
Fuck. I'm sorry about that, Josh.
Yeah. I wanted to give him a shout out, but I don't know if I want to. Like, I couldn't think of anybody else.
No, it's fine.
No, it's a very good sentiment there. Mm-hmm. I'm just the one that has to follow it up. All right, and from my side, I'm just going to shout out a friend of mine here in Columbus, Katie Lore. She's a local author and a friend of mine. She's working on a book right now, a webcomic series with a friend, and she's been published a few times in some short story anthologies. So I just wanted to give her a shout out. I wish I had some of her stuff that she's published so I could say where to find it, but hopefully I can, put them in episode descriptions and such afterwards. So I've known her for years. We knew each other back in the Dayton days. You know, she's coming along in her writing career. So I just want to give her a shout out and congratulations and kudos. And
I know Katie. I used to work with her.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, she was a student worker when I was there, when I was a specialist there. So yeah, I've known.
Small world.
I've known Katie a long time.
We'll have to tell her that you said hello. Dan says hello, Katie, if you're listening to this episode.
Oh, she's good people. We're still friends on Facebook and Instagram and all that. So yeah, she's good people.
Magnificent. But again, wanted to shout her out. And, if you can find her stuff, go buy and read her stuff.
So you guys want to start a band?
No.
Why not?
I mean, you know how much work is involved?
Okay, we get special powers while we're performing our music.
It's just like, are we going to go get into some radioactive ooze?
Last time we did that, Tom got lymphoma, so I don't recommend doing that again.
What about becoming, robots that transform into other things and then start a band?
That's more valid.
Okay.
How about we just have like a robot AI that projects holograms on us so we can be like other people. So we're like music producers, but also musicians in disguise.
That's just outrageous. Truly, truly outrageous.
Can we get Rosie O'Dawson to play one of us?
You're thinking of Josie and the Pussycat.
I am, which is probably a much better film.
I think it will be too. So
we're going to find out soon.
We are going to find out. So join us next time for the next installment of the
Super Saturday Super Power Hour.
We will be watching Gem and the Holograms.
Yeah.
Yes.
We don't know when we want to do it, so potentially second Saturday at 6 a.m. or 7 Eastern time.
Whenever the algorithm uploads the episode. We'll find out.
Yes, whenever, sometime in the future, you'll find out.
But until we get to that lovely piece of cinema that we have to get through to get to Masters of the Universe, I've been Dan.
I've been Josh.
And I've been Tom. Thanks for listening.
This has been a production of Curtain Call Entertainment, LLC.
Stay safe out there.
I'll drive, you shoot!
No, I drive. Josh shoots. That's the order of operations. First Tom, then me, then Josh.
No, it's my turn to drive. Dan always gets to drive. I never get to drive. Plus, my gun's out of ammo.
That's the order of operations.
You want a piece of me? No! I want two!
Holy shit! That robot just ripped that other robot in half! When did they get here? Why is the military only now showing up? Who is this chick? What happened to our car's legs? What is going on here?
Mookie 3-2, use 105 shells. Bring the rain.
I think Tyrese said that they're gonna bring the rain.
No! No rain, Tyrese! We are not ready for rain! I don't have insurance for rain!
It's just a scam. You don't need to buy the insurance, especially for...
It's a dick! Oh my god. Actually, Josh, next time you can drive.
You know what? No. I'll stick with the gunning and the shooting thing. I'm good.
My deposit!
Don't worry, Tom. They're fixing your car. Look. It's good as new.
Yeah, see, it's over there with that hot chick and that weird-looking cannibal-looking kid.
Now they're making out on your car.
Oh, now they're,
Oh. Should we be watching this?
I could stand to watch a little bit more.
No! You whores get off that right this instant! No, that is not at all what I meant, and you know it! No, you get back! Get off! No, not that off! Just keep getting off! Stop getting off and get off! Oh my god!
You know, on second thought, I think they're still in high school. I think we should leave.
Yeah, this is starting to get illegal.
It's never gonna buff out! Come on!
Should we just leave Tom? He seems to be going crazy.
He'll be back. He has to edit it.
Yeah, he'll be busy. He'll be busy. We'll just take our leave and drive these cool big-ass vehicles that transform around.
Not in the cup holder! What's wrong with you?
He's not getting that deposit back.
Never. In fact, they're probably going to charge him more.
Yeah, you should have seen what I did in the backseat. Ooh.
They won't stop improving! I want to see them!